Hi everyone, and welcome to our webcast today. The topic is creating coverages with Autodesk InfraWorks. This session is led by ASCENT's Michelle Rasmussen. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Corinne. Welcome everyone. I'm excited to talk a little bit about coverages today because this is an area of the software that I use extensively. Coverages are basically used to shape the terrain and change the way the ground displays. Coverages can be used to add ground cover in a landscape design, set the elevation of a building pad, or create a parking lot for a site design. So let's actually go in and take a look at this. First off, before I get too far though, I want to let you know everything that I'm doing today, except for one small little thing, is basically coming to you from the InfraWorks 2015 Fundamentals Training Guide. I'm going to be covering parts of chapters 3 and 4. And just to give you a little idea of what's in those books, if you have the Autodesk infrastructure software that comes in the infrastructure design suite, the first 7 chapters of that book will be everything that you need, and that's about 16 hours. And then Autodesk InfraWorks 360, for those of you that have that with the add-on modules, the last 3 chapters of the book actually cover those add-on chapters. So that just kind of gives you an outline of what to expect if you decide that you want to learn more about InfraWorks and how to use it. It's a great resource. So starting out with Chapter 3, we're only going to be covering a portion of this because I'm going to show you how to create and share styles that have to do with coverages specifically. And so we'll actually learn how to create and edit style catalogs, and then we'll also learn how to share style catalogs with other users. Starting out, the first thing you need to understand is how to create your styles. And the catalogs are set up differently for each type of entity. So you can see on my screen there the style palette. Basically at the top of the screen, that's where you create and edit your catalogs. So you're going to create catalogs, share your catalogs, import catalogs that other people have created. And then the drop-down list below that is the current style catalog that you're in. And then within the catalogs are all of your styles. So you can see the styles actually listed right here. But the styles are all separate according to the category that they fall in. So right now, all you're seeing are the road styles that are available in this specific style palette. But there's different style catalogs for building design. There's different style catalogs for coverages and pipe networks and pipe connectors and railways and basically everything that you can put into your model. And each of those categories are listed on a separate tab within the style palette. Then at the very bottom of that palette is the style editing tool. This is where you actually create copies of existing styles. You can copy a style from one catalog to another that you designate, and then you can add brand new styles that you create from scratch. And we're going to be taking a look at that today. To be able to bring that up, of course, you'll click on the Build, Manage, and Analyze Your Model, and then Create and Manage Your Model, and then click Style Palette. We're going to be talking today about 2 specific styles. The first one is a material style. The material style is a great way to add a fill pattern to anything that you want, whether it be the side of a building, the top of a building, what you want the ground to look like, basically using anything that you wish. You can actually go out and create your own images if you'd like, whether you go out and take a picture of a grass or a certain plant that you'd like to use in your model, or you create a picture from scratch in Paintbrush. The sky's the limit there, basically, because you can use your own images. You can also use just plain colors. You do have a color palette that's available, and you can use that. If you happen to use an image that you create or that you've gone out and taken yourself, you can actually set the image height and width right in the Define New Material dialog box. And we're going to actually be doing that so that we can create some parking stalls for the parking lot that we'll be creating. So let's actually learn how to create the material style, and then we'll come back and talk about the coverage styles as well. I'm going to go over into my software to do this. So before I get too far, you can see a site design that I have completed. Everything in this site design is a coverage. In fact, I don't think I've created any roads. I've obviously added plants and buildings and cars to it, but for the most part, this is all made out of coverages. And so you see the grass area here, that's a coverage. The asphalt area, that's a coverage. And in fact, I've got different coverages laying over here to show different colors of concrete that I want to be able to show in this site design, which makes it really nice to be able to explain to people exactly what the site will look like when it's all said and done. So it makes it much easier for all of the stakeholders to visualize the project when you have everything laid out the way I do here. So I'm going to just go into another project, though. I don't want to mess anything up in this one. So I'm going to open up a different model. And the model that I'm opening up actually comes to you from the courseware. So when you're in the courseware and you're trying to learn everything that I've outlined in the course, it has data sets that you can open up and actually try the things that I'm discussing in the course. All right, so to bring up my style palette, again, I'm going to go to the Build, Manage, and Analyze Your Infrastructure Model icon, and then expand the Create and Manage Your Model down below. And then underneath there, I will click Style Palette, and that's going to invoke the Style Palette. I have mine docked over on the right-hand side. Makes it much easier to work with. And I do want to start off by showing you how to create a material style. So on the Style Palette, I'm going to find the Material Style category. I think we'll go ahead and make some land cover. Now, actually, I'm going to do terrain because we're going to be shaping and modeling the terrain today. So I'm going to double-click on the terrain to go into that catalog. And then within there, I'm going to create a new material. So down at the bottom, I'll click on Style Editing. And this is where I tell it what color I want or what image I would like to use. So I'm going to select Texture for the type so that I can go out and select an image. So I'm going to click Browse. And let me go to my data set for the course itself. Oops, I got to go to the right data set. There we go. And all right. So basically, I have a couple different images here. One is for a swampy area so that I can actually go in and fill some information in over here where I don't have an image. And the other is for a parking stall. So this parking stall is just some line work that I've created using Paintbrush. It has a white line going down a certain length and then a white line going across to signify that I have a parking stall here and a parking stall here. And then on this side, that'll leave me room for a driving lane. So I'm going to select that and click Open. It's basically telling me that that texture was added to the resources for this model. I'm just going to click OK to that. Now I want those parking stalls to be an exact width and exact height. Now because I have my line weights set up, or my line work set up in that image so that it has one parking stall on this side and one parking stall on this side, and then the split down the middle, I am going to make that 52 feet high. That accounts for 20 feet for this stall, 20 feet for this stall, and then 12 additional feet for the driving lane down through the parking lot. And then I'm going to set the width of it to be 10 feet so that my parking stall is only 10 feet wide. Okay, now that I have that set up, I simply click OK, and there's my material. I probably want to give it a name, so I'm going to call this my parking stall and hit Enter. Okay, now that I've created my fill style or my material style, I need to go then and add it to a coverage style. So with the coverage styles, you have the option to set up a fill style from the materials, and the fill style can be a color or it can be one of the materials that you've already added to the materials style. And then you can set up an outline style. The outline style allows you to add images to that outline. It also sets the width. So if I wanted my curb and gutter to really look like curb and gutter that's been laid out, I can actually add an image and have it go find that image, or basically a material style, and have it show a real curb and gutter that's been split and created like they would in the real world. I'm just going to use a basic color for my curb, though. And then the width, you'll want to set the width up according to how wide you want that curb or whatever it is that you're signifying as the outline. You can also leave the outline style empty so that it doesn't have anything at all. And you can leave the fill style empty if you just need to show a boundary around the coverage. So I'll show you a couple different ways that that can be used. So let me go into the software again. There we go. Now that my material is ready, I need to go and, like I said, create the coverage style. So I already have this coverage style created that I'm going to be using, but I want to show you how to create one from scratch. So I'll click the plus symbol under Style Editing. For the fill style, I'm going to hit Browse. And rather than using a color, I'm going to go and click on the Material tab. And under Terrain, I'll choose my parking stall. And then click OK. For the outline style, I'm going to make it a gray color. So the color that is set right now is perfectly fine for me. However, I could have gone in and used a material that was set up. I'd probably want to pull it from roadway materials and pull like a curb or something like that. Okay. But again, I'm just going to use a gray color and click OK. And the nice thing about this is it actually gives you a preview of what it's going to look like, so that I can see all of my parking stalls are going to look nice and clean. My lane between parking stalls is going to be nice and clean, and the border around it can signify my curb and gutter around it. And then, of course, I want to set an outline width. Do I want it to actually be the curb and gutter, or do I just want a curb? If I just want the curb, I may want to just set it at 0.6 feet so that my curb is only half a foot. Or, I'm sorry, 5 feet. All right, I have it set. It looks pretty good. Now I'm ready to just click OK. And now my style is ready to use. Of course, I want to call this something useful, so I'm going to call it parking lot. And there we go. It does automatically put it in a different order than what you might think. So if it moves around, just keep an eye on it, because as you add new styles, it could re-alphabetize them. Okay. Now that both of my styles are created, oh, I forgot to show you one other thing. You probably want to be able to share those styles. So let's go look back at the software again one more time. When you're sharing your styles, remember, each of these categories are their own styles. And so if I want to share a material style with someone, I want to make sure I click on the Material tab and then hit Save. And that will save out a JSON file, as you can see here. And with that JSON file, I can then share that out. But when someone brings it in, it's only this specific list of styles. So it would only have the red material, the parking stall, and the terrain hole. Okay? So you have to basically save out each and every catalog that you want to share. So this coverage catalog here, that would share out the coverage, the parking lot, black outline, grass, and then sand. And then if someone shared that with you and you wanted to bring it in, you would just click the Import option to import that in from another file. And it's going to find that JSON file. Okay? All right. Next thing we want to do is jump into Chapter 4 of the InfraWorks Fundamentals Training Guide, and we're going to specifically focus on creating coverages in the model. So why in the world would I want to create a coverage? Well, we want to create a coverage to help us shape and stylize the terrain surface. So what does that mean? Well, basically, when I stylize the surface, you can change what you're seeing on the ground without changing the height of the elevations or changing the hills or anything else. You can basically just change what is draped on the ground, what image you're actually seeing on the ground, so that you can simplify making all of these lanes instead of going in and drawing a line for each and every one of the parking stalls. Now, the other thing that you can do with it is you can reshape the elevations. So I can go in and add a building pad, as you see here, and then adjust the elevation so that's a nice flat building pad. And what happens is it will actually adjust the slope going down into that building pad, and that building pad will be nice and flat so that when you're ready to drape your building on it, whether you're bringing in a Revit building or you're creating a building from scratch, it'll be a nice flat building pad for you. So let me go into the software and create a couple of different coverages for you. I'm going to start off right over here just to show you how to add a parking lot to this cute little church building that we have. Okay, this was a default building that I brought into the software from the default 3D models that they have. I like to make sure that I'm in plan view when I'm creating coverages, just a personal preference. I guess you do what you've been doing for years, and I've always designed from a plan view. So now that I'm ready to start designing things, I'll go into my Build, Manage, and Analyze Your Infrastructure Model icon, and this time I'm going to create conceptual design features. Within that, you'll have the option to click Coverages, and the first thing you'll notice is the style palette will appear. Only the coverage styles will appear available, so you need to make sure that you've created a style to be able to use it. So I'm going to choose one of my coverage styles. Probably my parking lot would be the best, so I'll click it. And then I can close that Draw Style asset card. Now I'm ready to start creating my, my outline here. So I'm going to just start picking points in the model. You notice that I don't have any object snap settings, but when I get close to an object, it basically tries to snap to it for me. So I just have, if I don't want that exact object snap, I just move it around a little bit to release that. The other thing that you might notice is I can set in exact length. So let me actually start that over because I did intend to actually start drawing that with exact length. So when I start picking points, it gives me a distance that I'm going as I go, but I can set in an exact length if I'd like. So let's say we want, let's see, 52, I'm going to go 72 and hit enter. And what happens is it sets that length for that specific line of the coverage, and it locks it in. That way, I can move my line in any direction I want to set the bearing of the line. And when I have it set the way I want, I just left-click to accept it. And then I can keep going around and drawing it. You'll also notice that coverages are always going to be closed polylines. So you need to make sure when you're working with them that you are creating the line work accordingly so that when you're done, it will be a closed polyline. Once you get to the end and you're ready to end the polyline, you'll just double-click to end it, and that will have the line work show up. Okay. Now, I'm going to go over to another area of my model and start building a pad. This pad is going to be a pad for my, my school, but let me show you what the slope of the ground looks like for this. you can see it's got quite a bit of slope. And in fact, this house, it's, you know, it's quite a bit of slope compared to the level line of the house, which all your buildings will end up at a level line when you're adding them to the model. So before I get too far, I want to actually add a building pad for my school to sit on. In order to do that, I'm going to create another coverage style so that I have a nice pavement style in here. So I'll click Style Editing, Add a Style. I'm going to go out and add a material style from my roadways. Nope, that I chose railway. Sorry about that. I meant roadway. And this blacktop will probably work pretty well. So I'm going to choose my blacktop. Well, yeah, we'll accept that. And then for the outline, I'm actually going to get rid of my outline for this because I don't need carbon gutter or anything else around it. I'm just going to get rid of it by hitting the X, and that makes that outline style empty. And even though it shows in a preview that I have an outline style, it's not actually going to show up. So I'll click OK. And this will be my blacktop. All right. Now I'm ready to go and add another coverage using the blacktop style. I'll hit X to get out of it. And again, I can set this in at an exact size. So I'm going to type in 300 and set the angle about like that. And then 350. And try to make it perpendicular there, and 300, and that looks pretty good. I'll double click to end it. All right. So it created my coverage, but you'll notice that it did not change the shape of the ground. And I said I wanted a nice level building pad. So what I need to do is I need to make some edits to this building pad. And to do that, I will simply go in and click the Edit command on the utility bar at the very top of the screen. And by the way, this is the 2015 product, so if you have 2014, you may notice you have a little bit of a different interface, so just be aware of that. I'm going to click Edit, and this is going to give me gizmos. Now you'll notice that when I'm in a plan view, I have certain gizmos. In fact, I have the rotate gizmo. If I decide, oh, I should have really, you know, put that at a different way, made my long side along this northern road rather than the eastern road. So I'm going to rotate that by 90 degrees. And I'm just going to start picking the rotate. And you'll notice that it allows me to type 90 in. Oops, it didn't take that though. Let me try that again, 90. And I'll hit Enter. And that'll rotate it by 90 degrees. If I didn't quite like that, I can actually go and, you know, make modifications manually and set everything in exactly the way I want it. The other thing you can do is you can move it. There are different move commands according to the way you want to move it. Let's say I just needed to move it directly west a little bit. Well, I can grab the X axis of my move and move it only in that direction. No matter where my cursor is, it's only going to move in that X direction. I can do the same thing with the Y axis, grabbing only the Y and moving it. Or I can freeform modify it or move it by clicking the square between the two and just moving it along. Okay. But when I move to, when I change my view by clicking and dragging to a little bit more of a profile view, you'll notice that it gives me elevation gizmos. And these elevation gizmos allow me to change the elevation of each of the vertices. So if I needed to make the whole thing level, I simply grab that elevation gizmo and push it down. You'll also notice that I have kind of a box. I hope you guys can see this through the WebEx okay. It's a little bit of a light color, but that bounding box shows me my level line, which is really handy because then I can just try to make that level with that gray line, and that way I end up with a really nice flat elevation for my building. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side, again, making it level with this bounding box level line. I'm going to grab that and pull it down until it is level. And as I do that, you'll notice that it's automatically shaping the terrain around it rather than just being buried. Okay? So that looks pretty good, but maybe I need, you know, a few other things. Maybe I need a parking island in here so that I end up with, you know, a curb and gutter and a parking island to separate the school from the street. Okay, so I might want to go in and add another coverage with my parking lot. Maybe my parking lot starts right at the street. I don't know. The nice thing about this model that's used in the course is that it is a blank canvas. I mean, this is an area around Saratoga Springs, Utah, that is completely undeveloped at this time. And so you can actually start to see what that's looking like. Maybe I need to go and add some curb islands over here, roadways coming into it, you know, whatever the case might be. I can start adding all of that information so that I end up with a really nice finished model. Okay. So I'm going to actually go into the other model that I was showing you earlier and show you some of the things that you can do when it comes to site design using coverages. So you can see in here we have a number of different building pads that have been added. We have curb and gutter that's been added with trees down the middle to really make this site a lovely site. We've added some different stamped concrete to the model to make it look like it would. This is actually a Smith model for the city of Kaysville, where they have this area over here that is a fuel center. And when I zoom in on that, you can see that I have a little bit of a different kind of asphalt than the pavement surface that people are going to be driving on, the through routes. I have all my lines in for my parking stalls. So you can get pretty detailed with the model if you go in and you set up all of your styles beforehand. So this coverage here, this is a coverage with grass in the middle and curb and gutter on the outside. And I can show you that, all the different styles that I have available in this model just quickly. One thing that you need to be aware of when you're working with the models, though, not only are the styles model specific, meaning, you know, once you create the style in the model, it's only available in that model unless you share that catalog out with people like I showed you. The other thing is it's proposal specific. So if I go and look at, let me go and look at my coverage styles here, you'll notice I have a DEM cover, I have a gravel mix cover, my wood mulch cover, my sand cover, my parking lot cover. I have all of these different styles, and when I look at each one of them, you'll notice that, you know, I've got some dark surface asphalt for the parking lot and then concrete linear pattern for my curb and gutter to make it look really nice. You can kind of see the line work to make it look like it's been brushed concrete in there. But when I change proposals and I go over here to my master proposal, you're not going to see all of these coverage styles because it is proposal specific. So you may need to share those styles with yourself within the same model that you're already working in, if that makes sense, okay? So keep that in mind that this is all proposal specific, all the styles that you're working with. But this is a really good representation of what this site looked like before I came in and started adding all of the site information that you saw in that future phase of the Smith project. Kareem, we're just about done. Have any questions been coming in as we've been working through this?
Let me just check here, Michelle, because
You bet.
yes, there is one here that said, what if you wanted to grade in vertical elements, maybe a shoring wall?
Great question. So let me actually go back over to my model. I've actually done that with this model. You can see I have a fence going around my model, and I've done that using a barrier. But I've also got, if I can zoom in on this, I've got this ramp basically going down to the loading docks for Smith, and it has a wall going straight up. Well, that was done with a coverage. And let me go out here to another area and show you how I did that. So I'll add a wood mulch style for it. I'm going to create a new coverage, and there's my wood mulch coverage. Close that. And I'm just going to add a basic square out here. And give it just a second. There we go. And now, of course, I do need to edit it because it's not changing the elevations yet until I start editing the elevation. So I'm going to edit the elevation on this side to take it a little bit below the ground. And this side as well. Okay, so what happened here is it went ahead and modified just the side where I lowered these elevations. But I want it to be a little bit more vertical, and I hope I'm answering the question that was asked properly, because maybe I misunderstood the question. But I do want to show you how to change how much smoothing goes on with the surface. So if I select that coverage and I right-click, I can go to the coverage properties. And within the properties, I can change my smooth radius. So let's change that to 5 and update it. And we'll give it a second. And you can see by doing that, it made it much more of a vertical slope into that grading object, or well, I call it a grading object, but it's into the coverage. And so that's how you can change how much the surface gets smoothed out, is to change that. So if that answered the question, hopefully you'll be able to type yes in the chat there.
Yes, thanks. I will keep an eye on that. Did you want to address any other questions? There are a few here.
Yeah, we may as well. I was just going to go through the final little bit on what's available to them. So we may as well go through questions now, if that's all right.
Sure, that's fine. So Diane has 3 questions here for you. So she asks first, what file types can buildings be, i.e. Revit, 3D, AutoCAD, or other? Absolutely.
So it depends a lot on what you're bringing, what InfraWorks you have. Because of the fact that I have the InfraWorks 360 product, when I go to add buildings, I can add buildings from 3D models. And this is the same as if you have the Infrastructure Design Suite InfraWorks, or if you have the InfraWorks 360 product. But because I have this, I can go in and add 3D models, and there are a number of 3D models that come with the software. Let me go to buildings, of course, and neighborhoods. So you can actually see I have a wooden church and a post office and a gas station and stuff. And so these can be added very easily through the conceptual design features and adding buildings. But if I have other models that I want to incorporate, let's say I have a Revit model, I would have to have the option to add my data sources. So let me bring up my data sources. And here are all of the other different model types that you can bring across. If you have a 3D model from AutoCAD, you can bring that 3D model across. If you have a 3D model from Civil 3D, you can bring that across. If you have smart objects in Civil 3D like corridors and surfaces that you'd like to take advantage of, you can bring that IMX file across. And that way, if you've already done some grading inside Civil 3D, you can use the IMX to bring that across. But you can also bring across the Revit model if and only if you have the InfraWorks 360 product. If you don't have that, what you'll have to do is on the style palette, create a new style, and you'll have to ask the person that sent you that file to give it to you in an OBJ file or another file format. Basically, the Smith building that is in this model is not, it was originally a Revit model, but the firm that I was working with to build this, they didn't have the 360 product. So we had to create this as a style, and then we just created a generic building and plopped that style on it. So to create that, all I do is add a new 3D model style, and then the model URI, I'll hit Browse, and you can see that you can go and grab 3ds files, DAE files, DXF files, FBX files, OBJ files, and SFF files. So those are the types of files if you want to create a building style and to use if you don't have Revit.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. The same lady is asking, does the 3D terrain and addition of numerous materials exponentially add to the file size?
Yes, absolutely. These files get rather large. In fact, let me go and just take a quick look. It seems like this file was pretty large. Let me go grab it, and I'll show you how large it is. I forget where I saved this at, though.
But the short answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And she also wanted to know, did you start off with a JPEG of a Google Map clip? What are the possibilities?
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. This file that you see on my screen now, the surface itself came from two different sources. The overall surface that actually shows the mountains in the background, that came from the AGRC here in Utah, where we downloaded the a raster file. It was a DEM file for digital elevation models. And so that was something that we downloaded from an external source. And then our designer wanted to make sure that the surface was nice and flat and had all the curb definition that we want in it. And so they went in and did the surface using Civil 3D and added grading feature lines to the surface to give it exactly the definition we wanted. And then I used an IMX to import that Civil 3D surface into the model.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Other questions that might be coming in?
Do most file extensions work for importing the initial images?
Yeah. So as far as images go, again, you'd want to be on the Data Sources tab. And when I go to add a raster, your image sources are all listed here. There's quite a number of them. I won't say them all out, but PNGs, JPEGs, all of those work very well. And they work even better if you have the world file with it. And in fact, the image that you see in the background in this model, it had a world file, so it draped right on the surface very easily for me.
Okay. I think we've got one final question here from Diane. With default materials in the software, is there much mapping or scaling that has to occur?
Mapping or scaling? It depends on if you've made the image yourself. I mean, a lot of the default styles that come are, they've created them according to what a real-world product might look like. So if I were talking about, a building facade, for instance, oops, I've got a dialog box open. let me just show you some of the building facades that are available. Like these brick building facades. All the windows and bricks and everything were you know, taken as an image and then added to the building styles, and it gives you a really nice look. And so those styles are already at a real world size. But if you take the image yourself, yeah, you definitely want to be cautious on how you're creating that image and then size it when you're creating the material style according to how big you need it. So hopefully that answered the question.
There's another question here, Michelle. Can you explain how the data sources work between proposals?
Okay, so as far as data sources go, once you, so let's talk about proposals actually. So you'll notice that I have a master proposal in here. When I started out my model, by default there is always a master proposal, and that's because it's very much like layer 0. You have to have a minimum of one proposal to be able to create anything in the model. Then what I did is in my master proposal, I just brought in the existing conditions. So all that this proposal has in it, if I look at my data sources, are my DEM file, which was a raster file, and then a couple of different aerial photos. I have one aerial photo that's like a great big huge one that covers part of the mountains there, and then I have a more up-to-date current image that was from 2009 to cover the rest of it. Now, when I create a new proposal from this one, these data sources get copied over to that new proposal. And so even if I go into this future phases, I've added a number of different things to this future phase proposal. If I create a new proposal, all of these data sources will come across to the new proposal. So it makes it an exact replica when you base one proposal off of another.
Okay, excellent. This is a lot of interest here, Michelle. I think people don't have the book. They need to get it.
Absolutely. So since we're talking about books, just to let you guys know what's available, we have a number of infrastructure design books available that include the Civil 3D Fundamentals, Civil 3D for Surveyors, and Grading. Of course, we have the BIM Workflow for Roads and Highways using the Autodesk portfolio. That book actually has parts of InfraWorks, Civil 3D, and Navisworks in it. So if you want to, figure out a really good workflow for your project, even if it's not a roadway project, you might want to think about getting that book and at least going through it, because it takes you through taking an InfraWorks model into Civil 3D so that you don't lose any of your design information, and then doing your detailed design in Civil 3D and taking that into Navisworks to do any clash detections between your work and the architect's work and other project partners' work. And then it takes you right back into InfraWorks to do the high-end visualizations, like creating your storyboards and stuff. And then, of course, you do have the InfraWorks Fundamentals book that I've been showing a couple chapters out of today, the Map 3D, and the Introduction to Plant Design. All of those books come in a couple of different formats. So you have your printed format, which is spiral bound. Look at that, I even have one right behind me. Let me grab one. So it's really nice. It's a nice spiral bound. That way it opens up all the way, and you can have just one page open at a time. There we go. And then we have it in e-learning format. So I really love the e-learning books because you can take notes right in that book and take it with you everywhere you go. And even if you have notes on your computer and then you have the book on your iPad and you go home and you need the notes that you wrote at work, it will actually sync to those notes that you wrote on your work computer. So it's a really great way to keep all your notes synced and be able to share notes with other people within your company as well. So, and then of course we have instructor tools for all of those courses available.
And there we are.
And there we are.
Excellent. Thanks, Michelle. So I just wanted to let everyone know that all of these books and the instructor tools and ebooks that Michelle has been referring to are available for purchase on our ASCENT e-store. It's kind of a self-serve site. You can go in there, create an account, find the book, the training guide, or the ebook, whatever it is you're interested in, make a purchase directly there. Please follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, we have a blog. Michelle is one of our bloggers. And I think, Michelle, you may want to do a blog after this class to address some of the questions, and a few more questions I see have come in as well. So we may keep you busy writing some answers to those. We also are on LinkedIn, which I need to add to this slide. And Michelle is actually kind of our face for our LinkedIn page. And so, follow us on there. I put the latest courseware releases up on Twitter. We put them on LinkedIn. Sometimes I have flash sales and promos. I actually ran I call it Black Friday in the U.S. I ran a flash sale for our InfraWorks book then. It's a one-day sale. So you never know when those are going to happen. So it's a great idea if you follow us to take advantage of those savings. And if you have any questions or comments about this webcast or about anything within our training guides, please use the feedback@ascented.com email address, and we will respond to you. So thanks very much, Michelle, for your time today, and thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm just